I played the latest game to be going around the internet right now, Buckshot Roulette. Available on itch.io for a pretty reasonable price. I wanted to see what the fuss was all about. I mean, a Russian roulette game has definitely been done before, so what makes this game so special? Well, let me tell you. The main gameplay loop is only somewhat related to Russian roulette, in that you end up seeing the lineup of bullets, you have to guess which bullet is going to be in the chamber, much like Russian roulette, but you can turn the gun on yourself or on the dealer. Now, why would you turn it on yourself? Well, if you pull the trigger on yourself and it turns out that the bullet was a blank, then you get another turn, which, depending on the layout of the bullets, means that you might have a stronger chance of shooting a proper bullet at the dealer, taking a bit of their health. Of course though, if you end up shooting a blank at them or shooting yourself, then it's the dealer's turn, and the dealer's going to do everything in their power to deplete all of your health. On top of that, there's these series of items that the game gives you. The magnifying glass, the can of beer, the cigarettes, a handsaw, and some handcuffs. And they all have different purposes that serve to add another layer on top of everything. The magnifying glass allows you to see what shotgun shell is currently chambered in the round, so you can see for yourself if it's a blank or if it's a proper shell. Therefore, you can make your next decision very deliberately. The handcuff gives you 2 turns back to back, which I find to be probably the most useful item in the game because of that, because even if you've got nothing else, you can just slap the handcuffs on the dealer and then just fire twice in a row. The magnifying glass comes very close to being the most useful item just because it outright tells you what you're working with, but the handcuff pretty much guarantees that you're going to take some health off of the dealer. You'd have to have really bad luck otherwise. The beer is definitely the weakest item of the lot, as it just makes you take out the current shell in the shotgun, which you could do the same thing but just firing the shotgun. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of risk involved if you fire it at yourself, but just fire at the dealer. Like, the beer at that point doesn't seem to be very useful. Maybe I missed something that gives the beer some properties that shooting at the dealer doesn't, but it just doesn't seem like a very useful item in my opinion. The cigarettes end up being quite useful in their own right. If you end up taking damage, it's a good way of getting your health back. And the handsaw is definitely a more use case scenario situation, but if you end up in a situation where you're certain that the next shell is going to be a proper shell and is going to deal damage, you saw off the end to deal double damage, taking 2 bits of health. Let me tell you, few things are more gratifying in this game than getting that 2 hits of damage, and nothing is more soul destroying than when you shoot that sawn off shotgun just for it to be a blank. And of course, you can use these items in combo. If you're in a situation where you got a magnifying glass, the handcuffs, and a handsaw, you can absolutely wreak havoc. Oh, what's that? That's an actual shotgun? Okay, put on the handcuffs. Okay, now let's have another go. Oh, it was a blank. Oh well. Or, oh, 3 shots of damage. You know, like, it's crazy really, and that's what makes it so fun. Now, the first 2 rounds, I quickly came to realize were just a tutorial, essentially. Like, not literally a tutorial, but it's clear that the AI is holding back, because once the 3rd round gets there, oh my god, the AI does not hold back. Suddenly, you're getting put in all the different combos that you'd been using on the dealer up until this point. And let me tell you, if you slip up, the dealer has no issues with depleting your health. I managed to beat the game on my first try, but I got by the skin of my teeth. I had like just 1 bit of health left over. I didn't think I was going to make it. After that, I played a mode which I believe is just an endless mode, where from the get-go, the AI goes straight into that final round mindset where it's going to get very much harder. Like, the AI never seems to be unfair. It doesn't feel like the AI knows something you don't. The AI, when it's in this mindset, is just playing by the same rules you are and isn't holding back anymore. And let me tell you, this is probably the best part of the game in my opinion. You absolutely have to play the normal game mode first, where there's a beginning and an end. But once you get into the endless mode, I think that's when it gets to be the most fun, because each round feels like you're barely scraping by and requires you to really weigh up the options. Now, it should be stated that there's no clear-cut strategy for playing Buckshot Roulette, because, of course, everything about it is, generally speaking, luck-based. Even the AI gets tripped up sometimes and ends up blasting itself. Between the fact that the items are randomized, the order of the bullets are randomized, you can never be fully 100% certain a lot of the time, unless you got the magnifying glass, of course. But as I mentioned, the AI itself can sometimes get tripped up by this, and honestly, I really like that. The fact that it feels entirely fair in its randomness makes it all the more gripping, really, where you have to try and play the best game you can to ensure that the odds are as close to 100% as they can be, knowing that there's always going to be a slight amount of risk every time you play. Now, the visuals are something that I was initially uncertain of, but as I came to play the game, I realized that they really sold the atmosphere really well. The dingy atmosphere, the way that things don't look right a lot of the time, like sometimes the shaders of the game make things look a little odd, but if anything, that slight uneasiness, the way that everything looks off, really does sell into the atmosphere the game is trying to deliver. I wouldn't necessarily call it a horror game, although it does have some more uneasing tendencies, so I guess it's easier to say it's that. But overall, it is a fun experience, and the music as well is great at getting you amped up with the tension of the environment. Overall, for a game that's as cheap as it is, I genuinely think it's a really fun little time. The visuals make it feel like this is a place you really shouldn't be, like this is not the place where you belong, and the menus give me this feeling like when I'm scrolling through like a creepy DVD menu. For an example, I guess the Iron Maiden Visions of the Beast menu is probably the closest equivalent I can think of in the moment. And the music is, and the music in the background is enough to keep you amped up in those moments that can sometimes give you a rush that, on some occasions, definitely helped me getting to the point where I was overly confident and would make some rash decisions. The music would be bumping, I'd be thinking, oh yeah, I'm doing so well, let me just do this, and then I'd make a rash decision, and honestly, I love it for that. Like, it's so easy to get swept up in just overconfidence, and at the same time, when things go wrong for you, that music at the same time is brilliant and making you feel tense, knowing that if you make one more wrong decision, or if the odds aren't in your favour, you're done. Because there have been so many times where there was once or twice where I just barely got by, not because I did anything, but because the luck was just on my side. And for a game this cheap, to be giving me this kind of experience, I think is great, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. Honestly, if you like what you see, or if you're even vaguely interested, the game is listed on itch.io for like $1.20. It's really not that expensive, and I think it takes its concept to the furthest point it really can. I think it's pretty good all in all. Overall, I just highly recommend checking this out. It's overall a fun, intense, atmospheric game, and I just love what it does. Check it out and test your odds for yourself.